It was late autumn in Willow Creek, Texas, a town so small that the high school football games were treated like national holidays, and gossip traveled faster than the prairie wind. The leaves had turned gold, the mornings carried a hint of chill, and for most people, life rolled on quietly. But inside Willow Creek High School, a storm was brewing. Mr. David Harper had been teaching English there for 12 years. He wasn't the loudest or the strictest, but everyone respected him. His students called him Mr. H, and parents trusted him to look after their kids. He believed in second chances, in seeing the best when others only saw mistakes. That's why, when trouble found 16-year-old Ethan Miles, David refused to look away. Ethan wasn't a bad kid. Quiet, a little awkward, always sketching things in his notebook instead of paying attention. His father had left years ago, and his mother worked double shifts at the diner just to keep food on the table. Most days, Ethan came to school looking tired, but never bitter. He was one of those kids who carried too much weight for his age, but did it quietly. One Monday morning, Principal Reynolds called David into his office. The air was thick with tension. "David," the principal began, "we have a situation. A student's wallet went missing from the locker room. $150 in cash. We checked the security footage. Guess who was in there right before it happened?" He slid a grainy image across the desk. It showed Ethan walking out of the locker room, head down. David frowned. "That's hardly proof," he said. Reynolds sighed. "It's enough for the board. He's facing expulsion. End of the week." David's heart sank. "You can't be serious. He's one of my best students." Reynolds leaned back, folding his arms. "We can't make exceptions. We have zero tolerance for theft." When David left that office, he knew something wasn't right. Ethan wasn't a thief. He'd seen kids who lied, cheated, and stole. And Ethan wasn't one of them. That afternoon, David found Ethan sitting under the oak tree behind the school, his backpack slumped beside him, sketching in silence. "They're saying I did it," Ethan whispered when David sat down. "But I didn't." "I know you didn't," David said gently, "but we'll have to prove it." In the days that followed, David began his quiet investigation. He reviewed the hall footage himself, questioned students, and even checked the locker room layout. Something didn't add up. The camera angle that caught Ethan also missed a blind spot, one that covered the row of lockers near the showers. But when David brought this to the principal, Reynolds waved him off. "You're making this personal, David. Don't lose your job over one kid." David didn't listen. He couldn't. The more he pushed, the more resistance he met. The administration wanted the problem gone. The parents of the boy who'd lost the wallet, a wealthy local businessman's son, were already threatening legal action. By Thursday, the expulsion papers were ready. That night, David drove home in silence. His wife, Lauren, saw the exhaustion in his face as he sat down at the table. "It's Ethan again, isn't it?" she asked. He nodded. "They're railroading him. I can feel it." Lauren touched his hand. "Then do what you do best. Stand for him." The next morning, David walked into the school board meeting uninvited. The room fell quiet as he stepped forward, papers in hand. "Before you expel that boy," he said, "you need to see this." He presented the map of the locker room, pointed to the camera blind spot, and showed timestamps proving another student, Tyler McGill, had entered minutes after Ethan left. Tyler was popular, the quarterback, and son of the same businessman pushing the expulsion. The room murmured. Principal Reynolds' jaw tightened. "Mr. Harper, this isn't your place." "Then whose place is it to make sure justice isn't just convenient?" David asked. The board called for a short recess. When they returned, Reynolds announced, "The decision stands. Ethan Miles will be expelled effective immediately." David's chest went cold. "You're punishing a boy to protect a name," he said softly. "That's not justice. That's cowardice." He walked out of that room knowing his career might be over. When he told Ethan the next day, the boy didn't cry. He just nodded, eyes hollow. "It's okay, Mr. H. People like me don't win." David's voice broke. "You will. Maybe not today, but one day." The weeks that followed were brutal. Parents whispered that David had gone too far. The district suspended him pending review, and the local paper printed only half the story. Ethan's mother moved him to another school, desperate to give him a clean start. By Christmas, David was unemployed, but he didn't regret a thing. A year passed. Willow Creek moved on. The scandal faded into gossip, then silence. David took a job teaching adult literacy at the community center. The pay was modest, but the work was honest. One humid July afternoon, as he packed up after class, a voice called from the doorway. "Mr. H?" He turned, blinking in disbelief. It was Ethan, taller now, older, with a spark in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Ethan," David said, smiling faintly. "You look good." The young man stepped forward, holding a small envelope. "I came to thank you." David looked confused. "For what?" Ethan took a deep breath. "For believing me when no one else did. Turns out, you were right." Inside the envelope was a newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local teen admits to stealing wallet in Willow Creek case." It was Tyler McGill. A year after the incident, Tyler had been arrested in another county for shoplifting. During questioning, he broke down and confessed to several past thefts, including the one at school that had ruined Ethan's life. David stared at the article, the words blurring with emotion. "Does the school know?" he asked. "They do now," Ethan said. "My mom's been in touch with the board. They called this morning. They're clearing my record, and they want to apologize publicly." David exhaled slowly, a mix of relief and quiet vindication washing over him. But Ethan wasn't done. "There's more," he said, smiling shyly. "I just got accepted into the state university, art scholarship. I wanted you to be the first to know." David's eyes filled with tears. "You earned that, son." Ethan hesitated, then reached into his bag and pulled out a framed drawing. It was a sketch, detailed, lifelike, of that day under the oak tree, where the teacher and student had first spoken. "At my lowest," Ethan said, "you reminded me I still mattered. You said justice might take time, but it would come." "You were right again." David took the drawing, running his fingers over the edges. "Sometimes the world gets it wrong before it gets it right," he said softly. That fall, Willow Creek High School hosted a community event to honor local educators. David hadn't planned to attend. He didn't need recognition, but when Ethan called and asked him to come, he couldn't say no. The gym was full of students, parents, and teachers. On stage, Principal Reynolds stood beside the new superintendent. When David walked in, whispers rippled through the crowd. Ethan took the microphone. "A year ago," he began, "I was accused of something I didn't do. I lost friends. I lost trust. But one man stood by me. He believed in me when believing came with a cost. That man is why I'm standing here today." He turned toward David. "Mr. Harper, this is for you." The superintendent stepped forward with a plaque that read, "For exemplary courage and dedication to justice in education." The crowd rose to their feet, applauding. David felt his throat tighten as he walked to the stage. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then he said quietly, "I didn't stand for Ethan because I thought he was perfect. I stood for him because he was human. And if we stop defending what's right because it's inconvenient, we lose more than our jobs. We lose our humanity." The applause grew louder. Even Principal Reynolds, his pride softened, joined in. After the ceremony, David stepped outside into the cool evening air. Ethan joined him, looking out at the sunset spreading gold across the sky. "You think people change?" Ethan asked. David smiled faintly. "I think people remember. Sometimes too late, but they remember." In the months that followed, David was reinstated at the school. Not because he demanded it, but because the community demanded it for him. Parents began to see him differently, not as a rebel, but as a teacher who lived his lessons. Ethan went on to study art and criminal justice, a strange but fitting mix. He said he wanted to design programs that used art to help wrongly accused youth tell their stories. And Willow Creek? The little town learned something too. That justice doesn't always wear a badge or carry a gavel. Sometimes it stands quietly in a classroom, refusing to give up on a kid the world has already written off. Years later, when people spoke of the Ethan Miles story, they didn't talk about the theft or the expulsion. They talked about a teacher who lost everything for the truth, and a student who proved him right. Justice didn't come quickly. It rarely does. But when it finally arrived, it carried the weight of kindness that had refused to die. Because kindness, when it's brave, becomes justice. And justice, when it's patient, never forgets. If you believe in stories that remind us kindness still matters, subscribe to The Voiceless. Together, we'll keep giving sound to the silenced and light to every hidden truth.